Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Pulpit Side Chat. I am your host, as always, Pastor Andrew. I'm glad you're with me wherever you are and whenever you are. We are finding ourselves today in Galatians chapter 5 in the first verse. I'm reading out of the NIV, my study Bible here, and I want to read it to you, then we'll discuss it about. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. One more time. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. So what is Paul referring to? Because Paul is the writer of this book. What is Paul referring to in this book is this freedom that Christ has set us free from. It is the freedom from the law. Had we been born Jewish and lived 2,000 plus years ago, we would have been under the law of Moses. And as such, it's very rigid. And not only is the law rigid and it's difficult sometimes to keep a hold of, just if you don't think that's true, I want you to live perfectly for a week based off the 10 Commandments and tell me how you do. And just so you know, the wager is if you can manage to do perfectly the 10 Commandments for a week, you get $1,000. However, if you miss one, you die and go to hell. I think we'll take grace, right? Yeah. Living under that law is very difficult because one mishap and you've got to start the whole process over again. You got to re-sacrifice and do all of these things. And so by grace, Christ gave us grace on his death on the cross, right? He died on that cross so that we could have grace, and grace sets us free. So Paul's saying it is for freedom that Christ died for you and set us free from this slavery. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. If you remember, I've talked about it many times, the religious leaders, scribes, and rabbis, they have added to the original text of the law in Leviticus, like the Levitical law. And they added all these subcategories and extra rules and extra steps, and it had become a legalistic nightmare. And true righteousness was gone. It was all legalistic righteousness, which was just an outward display without inward change. Whereas under grace, we are transformed by grace because we realize that we are sinners and yet God still loves us. And so our outward displays are of inward grace. Okay, our inward grace displays itself outwardly in our faithful obedience to God. So do not be burdened again. Do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. Guys, we are experiencing church like never before. For the simple fact that we can't meet together. We can't do our regular things. And I want you to ask yourself this question. Coming back to church and making no changes, is that putting ourselves back under a burden of slavery again? Are we so ingrained in how we do things that we've forgotten the why we do things? Are we so worried about the how that we're neglecting the why, and therefore we are putting ourselves under a yoke of slavery with our worship? I don't know. But I want to ask that question of myself, and I want to ask that question of you, and I want to hear back from you. So message me on Facebook, text me, call me, email me, whatever you want to do. But I want to have that discussion with every one of you. If we come back after this pandemic is over and we've done nothing different, if we've not changed internally, and that shows outwardly, was this pandemic for nothing? Because I don't know why we're having the pandemic, but I know that God works for the good of those who love him. And so we need to be obedient to God and free ourselves from any slavery we have put into our lives and into our worship services especially. So I want to hear back from you. This is not that was a good message, Andrew, I don't want to talk to you anymore. No, I need you to speak to me. I need you to reach out to me privately or publicly, I don't matter. But let's have this conversation. What are some ways that we can do not let ourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery, not only to sin, but of the legalism perhaps we've put into services? I love you guys. God bless. Take care. And I'll see you again on another edition of Pulpit Side Chat. Bye, everybody.